I felt like it was a very contemporary story. It was inspiring, and yet, of course, we all know it happened. It's in our recent memory. Yet, a lot of details were, just would enhance the drama. There were so many examples of really courageous acts of heroism that didn't make the headlines, and I felt that it, on top of everything else, it was offering a great acting opportunity, and there's nothing like giving great actors this kind of drama to work with that that I think gives allows audiences to really feel what it might have been like to be around this event, to live through it, to be a part of it.
Well, I mean, obviously, I was in Thailand at that time, and it was a huge news because everybody was, every channel, every radio, it was inescapable, and there was a real sense of, actually it was an interesting time because actually there was a weird sense of hopefulness, strangely, and you might think in other countries they'd be despairing, but somehow a lot of Thai people had this real innate belief that somehow they could be rescued. And I think that in many ways it shows in our film because this kind of not necessarily it's not relentless optimism, but basically that there's a chance that things can actually go well. And I think that is so endemic within the culture and society that maybe that actually did help to make the result what it is, because people really believe that there is a chance that these kids could come out.
This kind of story, I think, is really enhanced by authenticity and detail. And so many of these situations are just, the reality of it is even stranger, more stressful, more specific and odd, and sort of surprising than anyone who was there trying to be creative and sort of fictionalizing it could ever come up with. So they were there for that purpose, but also for safety, because cave diving is a very particular thing. And even though these are sets, our actors needed to learn how to dive in caves. And I thought they would maybe do half of their diving, but they became so expert at it, they wound up doing 100% of it, which gave me so much latitude to be able to develop shots and let them move into close-ups and be very fluid. It helped build the sort of tension and suspense, and you recognize that these people are really in there. That only enhances the authenticity and along with it, the tension, the excitement, and the suspense.
Obviously, it's a point of a huge amount of national pride, but at the same time, there is a palpable sense of loss, obviously with Saman Gunan passing and another Navy SEAL later on who also passed away. So there's this mix of this legacy that people are, they look back fondly, but at the same time, it's not also something that people shout off, shout out from the rooftops and go, yeah, this thing happened. So I think that like any country, going through a trauma, there is a mixed sense of different ways to look at what happened. But one thing that I think people in Thailand really do take out of this is that, wow, we managed to have everybody from around the world come into our country and perform this miracle. And in many ways, that is the biggest lesson of them all, which is that, we could all come together and do something amazing. And I think that when reminded, I think that's what Thai people are very proud about, proud of, this sense of being able to accomplish something amazing.
I think everybody involved in this rescue should feel that pride, whether they were, the divers at the epicenter of it, taking those physical, emotional risks, or whether it was the support team, or the parents themselves who were, almost like people relegated to the waiting room of the hospital while their children were, in surgery for 18 days. But the one thing they could do is focus their spirituality in a way that many people, in and around this event said was palpable. And but above all, the Thai government, the culture, and all these volunteers who came together, they proved something. They proved something to us, and that is that if you do hang on to hope, and act upon that hope, there was always a chance of something miraculous occurring. There was always a chance of that long shot coming into and becoming a reality. And but if you don't try, if you don't engage, you know, the world will be less for that.
Well, I mean, you know, one of the things that Ron and I discussed was really to try to get the interpersonal dynamics correct in Thai culture as well. And sometimes, you know, like one of the things I love is that Ron is very open-minded. So when I suggested, well, you know, we need the governor to have an assistant because he can't say certain direct things to the Navy SEALs, for example. So they need somebody in between. So that's why the actress Natvara came in to basically portray the assistant. And it's just tiny little details of cultural significance like this. And I was so happy that Ron was very open to it. And he was like, yes, that makes sense, you know. And I think that it's you know, how we go about it, which is that, you know, we want to make sure that even small little things like who are allowed to talk to each other is portrayed in a way that the Thais will say, oh yeah, definitely, that's the way it should be. And it's just these tiny little details which I think makes the film truly, you know, authentic and, you know, like what Ron had said since the beginning, which is that, you know, I want to make the film feel almost like a Thai film, that Thai people would feel like this can be theirs. And it's just these tiny details that make it like that.
I love collaboration. I love to collaborate. I enjoy it with the actors. I enjoy it with key crew members. And I was so looking forward to the collaboration with Thai talent in this case. And they did not let me down. I enjoyed it. They enriched the movie. I felt like that it's a story set in Thailand, but it's also a Thai story. And it's our cinematographer Sayampu Mukti Pram. You know, I asked him for his ongoing support beyond his work behind the camera, and he was a great influence on the film, and was always very, very supportive. We had somebody on the production side, Lek, who production design side, very, very important contributor, and many others, because I just wanted as many voices as possible to just be looking at the movie, the way these scenes were unfolding, and you know, and if they saw something wrong, you know, help me figure out how to correct it. Mm-hmm. I hope that the audience goes into the film, whatever they know about the story, and gets lost in the human side of it. I hope that they recognize, you know, that this story unfolded in different ways for different people, and I hope they lose themselves in that, and through that actually create a kind of another level of engagement, gain, you know, a real sense of emotional suspense, and that they're not only sort of engaged by the heart and the mind, but that the nervous system gets involved as well, and that they, you know, really get caught up in the story in that way, because it's I think it's a kind of movie that transports you, not only in terms of the environment, but also emotionally.
And for me, you know, like I'd said since the beginning when I started, you know, working on the film as a consultant, was what Ron said to me, which is that, you know, we're going through a crazy time. You know, we were going through the pandemic, and of course a lot of social political situations that are going around the world. And we have a real life story that is incredibly positive about how we can break down barriers between people, regardless of nations and our differences, to make something truly miraculous happen. And, you know, when people watch it, I really hope that people can see these possibilities as examples that we can lead ourselves, so that we can, you know, really appreciate the people's volunteerism in the film, and maybe somehow incorporate it into our own existence, and to really use this as a way to say, hey, look, see, there is a way for us to come together and not just be divided all the time, and look at the results that happen. So I think this is something that Ron taught me, so I'm just saying it back right now.